Hi, this is Philip with RTX Honeybees. I wanted to make this video about how to recover honey from wax cappings. It's something I've been interested in since the very first honey crop that I pulled. Uh, it seems that quite a bit of honey gets caught in those cappings. And I've watched lots of videos, from people trying to squeeze the honey out of the cappings to people that have huge operations and they use a capping spinner and get the wax really dry and get almost all of the honey out of the cappings. My first time that I harvested honey, I just left the cappings out and let the bees clean them up. The thing I noticed right away was that it seemed like the amount of cappings went down to almost nothing. I think that was partially due to the fact that the bees are real messy and they pick them up and fly off with pieces and they scatter them about. But I think it's also because when you have wet wax cappings after cutting them off the honeycombs, there's a lot of honey in there. And I've tried different things, but last fall I stumbled into something that was really eye-opening for me. I was trying to separate wax cappings from honey using a wax melter that I bought. That didn't work very well. The thing got too hot too quick. It didn't melt the wax slow enough. But one thing that it did make me realize was that I can probably just melt the wax and the wax cappings, and then the honey will stratify to the bottom and the wax will float to the top. What got me to thinking about trying to melt the wax, or at least heat it up and let the honey drain out the bottom of it, was watching a video with Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. He has a heated honey tank, they call it, I believe. It's a jacketed tank that has oil or water between two stainless steel walls. It has a valve at the top. I think it has a valve in the middle, and it also has another valve up a little higher. And what he would do was he would heat it up really slowly, and he would drain the honey off the bottom. Some of that honey he got off of there, I think he could really sell as honey because he would only heat it to about 95 degrees and let it stratify naturally. And then he would continue to heat it up and heat it up and heat it up until finally the wax melted, and he used it to just, after he got through the honey, to go ahead and start draining the wax off as well. As a matter of fact, I think once he got out most of the honey off, he put some water in it so it brought the wax up to the middle valve, and he got really clean wax out of it that way. Anyway, that got me to thinking, was if I can just get it to melt and let it reharden, then I can take the honey off the bottom and use that as what they call baker's honey. You know, when you use honey to cook with, you're going to heat it past 140 degrees no matter what. And what I found out last year is when I did this process, I started out with 11 pounds of wet wax cappings, and I ended up with 7 pounds of baker's honey and about 3.5 pounds of wax. And that was like, my mind was blown. That's 7 pounds of honey that I can cook with and have been cooking with, that I don't have to sell my raw honey to cook with. I can sell my raw honey and use that to cook with. So that's money in my pocket. That saves me, $14 to $16 a pound I can get for my raw honey if I can use this honey to cook with. You might could even try to sell it to somebody for, I don't know, I think it'd be worth like $5 a pound. You could sell it to somebody to make mead. You could sell it to somebody to make barbecue sauce, or just to use to cook with. So let me show you guys what I did, and hopefully this helps somebody out this time of season when they've got a lot of wax cappings to deal with. Now this spring has been a terrible honey season for me. I was actually very worried that I wouldn't have any wax cappings to deal with because I've harvested so little honey. And most of the honey that I've harvested was not even capped at all. I haven't been using my knife. I've been using the fork just to pick the few little cappings I have off of it. Most of the honey was dried out properly. I checked it with my refractometer. But when the flow stopped, the bees had just started filling the supers, and they won't cap those supers when the flow stops. So I harvested honey. I didn't get much. I still got a little bit to pull, and I may end up with some more wax cappings. But I did end up with about 2 pounds of wax cappings that I am going to use to show you how this works. What I have here is an old, they call these coffee cans, I guess. It's probably had some beans or some spaghetti sauce or tomato sauce or something in it. But it's a 1 gallon just tin, and it's clean. In here is just over 2 pounds. I think it's 2 pounds, 0.8 ounces. So let's say 2 pounds, 1 ounce of wet wax cappings. It's in here. There's no water or anything in here. I have got some water heating up on the stove here, and I'm going to use what I call a double boiler. Now, when I say double boiler, a pot of boiling water or hot water, and then this pot set down in that. And that's what we're going to do here. And we're going to heat it up as slow as we can. We don't want to cook that wax any more than we have to, but it will have to, this interior temperature will have to reach 140 degrees to be able to complete this process. So let me show you what I'm doing. So let me set that in there. Now when this starts to boil, which I'll let it boil slowly, it might bubble over, but we'll see. But see, that's floating in there, which is perfect. But we're just going to give that some time. Come back and check on it in a little bit. Okay, it's just started to boil, so I've reduced the temperature down. So it'll heat up real slow. Let's have a look down in there. It's already melted a good bit of the wax and honey. So we're just going to let that slowly heat up until it's completely melted, and then we'll let it re-solidify and we'll see what we've got. Getting close. Stirring this a little bit with this skewer. All right, I believe it's completely melted. Let's see if I see any wax. So now we're going to turn this off. In fact, I'm going to remove it from the heat. And we're just going to let it. Let the wax on top harden. See what we got. It'll probably take a couple hours. Okay, let's see how it came out. There it is. I'm going to see if I can't pull that wax off the top, and we'll get the wax and the honey weighed out and see what we ended up with. Typically what I'll do is I'll take this out and I'll let the bees clean it up. I don't want to scrape too much crud down into my honey. I'll run this honey through a strainer. All right, we're going to weigh it. All right, that's 1 pound, 11.2 ounces. All right, so it started out 2 pounds 9.3 ounces minus 8.5 ounces, which is what this weighs. So now it's 1 pound 11.2 minus 8.5. That's 7. That's 2. Okay, 1 pound 2.7 ounces. So what's the math there? Lighting's pretty bad in here. There's the honey. Let's get one more weight measurement on it now that we have it in the glass jar. All right, this is another pint jar. It's not exactly the same jar as this, but I'm just going to tear the scale with this. 15.3 ounces, so just under 1 pound. So that is just less than 50% of the starting weight. I'll let you guys decide whether that's worth it or not. Obviously, I wouldn't have went to all this trouble with just 2 pounds of cappings, except to try to show you all what this was about. But you know, if you have 10 pounds of cappings and you can get 5 pounds of honey out of it, I think that's worth your time. These cappings had drained for several days before I did this, so they weren't super wet. I had allowed them to drain for a long time. This is Philip with RTX Honeybees. Thank you for watching.